April 19, 1775, before sunrise, a small town in Massachusetts became the center of world history. A group of local militia stood on Lexington Green facing nearly 700 British soldiers. Within minutes, shots would be fired. No one knows exactly who pulled the trigger. But those shots would ignite the American Revolution. Today we'll examine how New England's growing conflict with Britain exploded into open warfare on Lexington Green. The road to Lexington began years before 1775. Following the French and Indian War, Britain faced enormous debt and sought additional revenue from its American colonies. Taxes such as the Stamp Act and Townshend Act sparked outrage. Colonists argued they were being taxed without representation in Parliament. Massachusetts became one of the most outspoken colonies, particularly Boston, where protests often turned violent. When colonists dumped tea into Boston Harbor, Britain responded forcefully. The coercive acts, called the Intolerable Acts by colonists, closed Boston Harbor and limited local self-government. Many colonists believed their rights were under attack. Rather than restoring order, British actions pushed Massachusetts closer to rebellion. General Thomas Gage faced an increasingly difficult situation. British intelligence reported that colonial militias were collecting weapons, gunpowder, and supplies in Concord. Gage decided to send troops to seize these stores before rebellion could fully organize. The mission was intended to prevent war. Instead, it would trigger it. The colonists maintained an impressive communication network. As British troops prepared to march, riders spread the alarm throughout Massachusetts. Paul Revere became the most famous messenger, but he was not alone. William Dawes and Samuel Prescott also played critical roles. Throughout the night, church bells rang, riders traveled, and militia units prepared. The men who assembled on Lexington Green were not professional soldiers. They were farmers, craftsmen, laborers, and merchants. Led by Captain John Parker, they gathered to demonstrate resistance. Many had no intention of starting a battle. Their goal was simply to stand their ground and observe British movements. Just after dawn, British regulars entered Lexington. The contrast was dramatic. Roughly 70 colonial militia faced nearly 700 trained British soldiers. The atmosphere was tense. Both sides were armed. Both sides were nervous. Neither side fully understood what would happen next. Suddenly, a shot echoed across the green. Who fired it remains one of history's greatest mysteries. Within moments, musket fire erupted. When the smoke cleared, 8 Americans lay dead and several others were wounded. The British continued their march toward Concord, but the world had changed. Despite countless investigations, historians still cannot identify the first shooter. Witness accounts often contradict one another. Some blame nervous militia, others blamed British troops, some believed the shot came from a bystander. The truth may never be known. What matters is that once the shooting started, events could not be reversed. Whether every word was remembered accurately or not, Parker became a symbol of disciplined resistance. His men stood against overwhelming odds. Their actions helped create one of the defining moments in American history. News traveled rapidly. Communities throughout New England mobilized. What had begun as a confrontation on a village green quickly became a regional uprising. The British expedition was no longer a simple supply raid. It had become the opening campaign of a revolution. For years, colonists had protested through petitions, boycotts, and political resistance. Lexington changed everything. The conflict was no longer theoretical. Blood had been shed. The struggle for American independence had begun. The men standing on Lexington Green did not know they were beginning a revolution. They believed they were defending their community. History had other plans. Their actions would inspire generations and help create a new nation. In our next episode, we follow the British column to Concord. There, colonial militia would force British troops into retreat and prove that organized resistance could succeed. The revolution had begun.